Live from WBFF TV in Baltimore, this is breaking news.
FOX 45 is on the scene of live breaking news at this hour. A massive and deadly crash on the inner loop of the Beltway.
This is right by Woodlawn, and we understand at least 6 people are confirmed dead.
And Keith Daniels is live near the scene with what we're learning. Keith, this is an absolutely horrible situation.
It's tragic here now, Kai. We're live on Windsor Mill Road, right above the Beltway here. Let me take you to it. You may be able to see the flashing lights in a distance there. That is where the crash site is, which happened on the Beltway between Windsor Mill and Dogwood Roads. At least a 3-vehicle collision. Maryland State Police confirming at least 6 people dead as a result of this crash. Exactly what happened is under investigation now. Now, the crash has created an absolute nightmare for drivers in both directions of the Beltway earlier, but they have since opened up both sides at first, and now it seems that they have shut down the traffic in this direction. You see it's clear here, but it's moving there at least 2 to 3 lanes in the other direction now. It's also a headache on the feeder roads to the Beltway in the area. Take a look here. We're on Windsor Mill again, traffic moving in both directions here. A nightmare for drivers maneuvering the afternoon commutes. Now, state officials say they are changing the timing on the traffic lights surrounding the crash to help relieve traffic. Meanwhile, no word on how long all of this could take. Of course, this investigation is continuing. We're live now in Woodlawn. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
And Keith, can you answer a quick question for me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So you're right there on Windsor Mill Road, I guess what Corinthians and the Windsor Mill Inn is not far from you, but it looks like a lot of that traffic has tried to divert off the Beltway, heading that way. How bad is Windsor Mill Road now as a result?
Absolutely. You can look at it. You can see it's bumper to bumper here in both directions on Windsor Mill Road in this direction. Let me take you back here to the interstate really quickly here, the inner loop. You see state officials leading what looks like traffic here. There was no traffic just moments ago when I showed you. Now they have opened this area up. You see the traffic moving. There's a school bus on the inner loop there. Baltimore County officials, school officials have said they're trying to get kids home as soon as possible. But again, the traffic trying to get back to normal here. But again, no indication as to how long this mess will be.
Keith Daniels reporting live in Baltimore County in the Windsor Mill area. As they are preparing for significant delays, as Keith pointed out. In fact, the school system says they're working to transport students safely.
And also breaking right now, a manhunt is underway after a school shooting in Denver, Colorado. We're told a student has shot 2 faculty members at Denver East High School. That shooting erupted after a gun was found during the search of the student. That student now remains at large, and the gun has not been recovered. A student reacting just moments ago.
There's always a threat. There's always a bomb threat. There's always somebody threatening to come shoot up the school. There's always something where we're on lockdown. Like, we have a lockdown damn near every other week or every other day. It's so consistent. It's like, it don't even surprise me no more.
Well, one of the victims is in critical condition. The other, we're told, is stable. It's not immediately clear if that shooting happened inside or outside of the school. Students skipped class earlier this month and marched to the state's capital to demand stricter gun laws following the death of a fellow student who was shot near a school.
In a city in crisis, school police seized a gun yesterday at Bluford Drew Jemison STEM Academy. We're told a student brought that gun and told another student to hold it for him. Both were arrested. This is the 13th gun seized this year in city schools. 15 guns were seized last year. Now, this year, 7 Baltimore City students have been killed by violence.
One of them is 16-year-old Isaiah Carter, who was laid to rest just yesterday afternoon. The Patterson High student was gunned down just blocks from his high school.
Well, tonight, questions surround the 23-year-old alleged killer who was arrested in Texas.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live now with the latest on this investigation. Rebecca?
Well, authorities say they're still waiting for the suspect to be brought back to Baltimore. In the meantime, concerns still remain over students leaving in the middle of the school day and reports of ongoing problems inside Patterson High School. 23-year-old Roger Alvarado Mendoza, arrested miles away from the scene of the crime in southern Texas. Police claiming he was caught as he was trying to flee to Mexico. Mendoza now facing first-degree murder charges for the shooting death of 16-year-old Isaiah Carter, a Baltimore City teen gunned down just blocks from Patterson High School.
Good afternoon, everyone.
On Monday, police revealing little information at a press conference announcing Mendoza's arrest.
Could you help Mr. Alvarado Mendoza's immigration status?
So immigration status is part of this ongoing investigation. We do not have a motive at this time.
Fox 45 has since obtained documents uncovering at least one prior offense. Mendoza charged with first-degree burglary back in 2018, an offense that carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, but Mendoza only given 6 months behind bars. Today, police still unable to confirm Mendoza's motive and full criminal history. Meanwhile,
something's going on at that school. They can say what they want. Yeah. Something's going on there.
On WBAL radio this morning, Sergeant Clyde Boatwright with the Baltimore City Schools Police Force questioned about what led up to the shooting.
Is there an ongoing problem between Hispanic students there and black students? Because that's the real concern of that particular school.
I'll say to the degree that I know or can share, I don't know what the motive is in this case. It's concerning that you have a 23-year-old adult male that is in close proximity of a school, and he's armed with a handgun, and there are teenage kids, engaged in an altercation, and one of them ends up shot and killed.
Boatwright also concerned with the number of students coming and going from city schools in the middle of the day without permission. So far this year, at least 2 students have been shot and killed during school hours just outside of school grounds. But according to Boatwright,
walking out of school or cutting class or something like that, that's an administrative violation.
But what is the punishment? What happens to that kid?
At school police, we are completely removed from the discipline process. So we don't even know if it's a 1-day suspension or a 2-day suspension. We just don't know.
So who is watching the students, and why are school police officers being left in the dark? Today, Fox 45 sent questions to city schools asking, is gang affiliation or racially charged disputes an ongoing problem between students at Patterson High School? What is the school doing to prevent further violence between students? And how can school police officers know when a student should or shouldn't be on school grounds if they're removed from the discipline process? City schools not responding. Now, as for when Mendoza will be extradited back to Baltimore, police, they couldn't give us an exact timeline today, but we will keep you updated as this story develops. Reporting live from the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Well, developing now, a crash lands a suspended Baltimore police officer in jail after investigators say she had drugs in her car and was illegally carrying a loaded gun.
Yeah, this is the 3rd Baltimore Police Department officer making headlines for criminal charges in less than a week.
Alexa Ashwell joins us now with the details on this latest arrest.
Yes, a big question is why this officer was suspended in the first place. A police source telling Fox 45 News she was caught drinking while on duty. BPD would not confirm this detail, but this is the latest officer now facing criminal charges in a city she swore to protect and serve.
An illegally possessed handgun, drugs, and an attempt to get rid of the incriminating evidence, all outlined in these charging documents in the case against Baltimore police officer Unique Shepard.
On March 20th, while suspended of her police powers from the Baltimore Police Department, investigators say Shepard was involved in a car accident at this intersection of West Pratt and Mount Streets in Baltimore.
According to court documents, in Shepard's car, a responding sergeant found a white plastic bag containing various suspected edible cannabis treats and 2 grinders with suspected cannabis residue. And on her person, a Glock 43 handgun loaded with 6 9mm live rounds. Investigators detailing Shepard's departmental firearm was taken from her when she got suspended, and she did not have a carry permit. Shepard was arrested and is now facing 2 gun charges. As for the drugs and paraphernalia, court documents read Officer Shepard signaled to her girlfriend by nodding to the vehicle, and that's when the girlfriend removed the items and then fled the scene.
These allegations and these indictments are unacceptable for anyone in our city. but especially for law enforcement officers.
It was less than a week ago that Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates announced criminal indictments against 2 other Baltimore police officers. Sergeant Larry Worsley for an assault at a bar in the city earlier this month, where investigators say he assaulted a woman and pulled out a gun, and Officer Walter Wilson, who was accused of sexual misconduct against another BPD officer while on duty back in October 2021. It was then Bates expressed his frustration, saying this is about rebuilding the public's trust in a city's long-strained relationship between police and the public.
You're seeing them working hard, seeing what they're doing on body camera, and then it's alleged that you see these types of actions by a few. I'm angry.
This, yet another example.
Now, according to a BPD spokesperson, Shepherd's police powers are suspended, so I'm told she's still working and will be paid. The department has not confirmed why she was originally suspended, but confirmed that happened about 4 months ago. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Alexa. Baltimore police are changing their homicide count to reflect 1 less murder after a shooting last month. Fox 45's Vincent Hill joins us live right now with more on why police are calling that death justified. Vincent?
Yeah, Kai, it happened here in the 3900 block of Ridgecroft Road back on February 7th. Now, at that time, police say they responded to the area and found 42-year-old Joseph Garrison lying in the street with a gunshot wound. They also say a suspect was on scene and taken into custody. Now, based on their investigation, police have concluded Garrison, who was armed with a handgun, was attempting to rob a 24-year-old who is a legal gun owner, and that gun owner shot in self-defense. Garrison died a short time later.
If the person defended themselves legally, but in the course of defending themselves, they committed a crime, they very well could likely find themselves arrested for carrying a firearm within 100 feet of a building.
So I'll have more on what would that mean for gun owners if Senate Bill 1 passes, coming up at 5:30. In Baltimore, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Inside of this massive bill, there's a few lines in there that threaten to upend the entirety of the hemp industry.
Well, with about 3 weeks left in the General Assembly session, there's a lot of attention on the bill to create the framework for Maryland's legal marijuana industry. But in that language is regulation the hemp industry says would put them out of business. Earlier today, Fox 45 News visited a hemp farm to learn more about the process in place there. The problem within the massive bill in Annapolis, lawmakers looking to cap THC levels in their products. Nicholas Patrick, who owns several CBD wellness stores in the Baltimore area, says while regulation is a good thing, the way the legislation is written makes him think the hemp sector of the industry could be snuffed out.
Right now, our industry has been self-regulating. We've been asking since 2018 for the Department of Agriculture to step in and regulate hemp products. They've decided not to do so. We do believe that the MMCC is misleading the legislature intentionally to use the legislative body who doesn't have malicious intent toward our industry to crush a competitor. They're cutting us out of our industry.
Well, Nicholas Patrick's business relies on hemp farmers like Levi Sellers to grow the product. Mackenzie Frost will have more from them and what the cannabis industry is saying about the language coming up at 5 o'clock.
If former President Trump is arrested, could it actually help him return to the White House? That's what some are saying. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington to explain coming up.
The feds deliver a decision on an inflation hike, this as they balance fears over the global economy. And we remain on scene of breaking news on the Beltway. 6 people killed in this crash that still has traffic backed up. We'll have more straight ahead.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Following breaking news at this hour, at least 6 people have been killed in a crash on the inner loop of the Beltway. These are live pictures from Fox 45, our drone, as traffic starts to move again slowly. That crash happened in a construction zone between Windsor Mill and Dogwood Roads. And you can see from the traffic map on the left of your screen, drivers are experiencing some major delays, as well as school buses, as they navigate their way through the area. We'll stay on the scene and let you know when we learn more.
Well, developing now, another day has come and gone and still no indictment of Donald Trump, despite the former president's prediction it would happen on Tuesday.
Yeah, and as we wait to see what the grand jury's next move is, the political and legal world is watching as well.
St. Clair's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman joins us live from Washington with the very latest on this story. Scott?
Yeah, Maxine and Kai, remember it was last Saturday morning that former President Trump let the world know he planned that he was going to be arrested on Tuesday. That's what he thought. Of course, that has now come and gone, and that doesn't mean that that's void of any action. We're seeing plenty of developments as well as analysis. Former President Trump continuing his assault on his accusers, unleashing a barrage of emails attacking Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. As Trump's longtime defenders chime in too, Senator Rand Paul tweeting, "A Trump indictment would be a disgusting abuse of power. The DA should be put in jail."
Nobody's ever done this. This is unprecedented, going after a former president of the United States. It looks like, the Democratic Party is going after their political rivals.
Which ironically could actually help Trump in his effort to take back the White House, says famed defense attorney Alan Dershowitz.
They'll have a mugshot, and he uses it as a campaign poster. People get T-shirts made out of the mugshot, and he benefits from it enormously. And he'll continue to campaign, and then 6 months from now, there'll be a trial.
President Trump has a reputation of fighting, and I think sometimes people on the Republican side are surprised when fighting comes back to him.
Democrats believe what happens in court could also affect the ballot box.
Anyone who breaks the law should be held accountable. Nobody should be above the law. And I believe that if the DA chooses to indict Donald Trump, it will be because there is an enormous amount of evidence that he should be indicted.
And is the fervor that once filled stadiums and elevated a first-time politician to the country's highest office lacking? The losses, impeachments, and investigations taking a toll.
He cannot get people out there. I mean, that's the one thing that's been amazing the last couple of days. You got like 4 people in front of Trump Tower and like 5 in front of Mar-a-Lago.
And the next true test of Trump's support may come this Saturday in Waco, Texas. That'll be the first rally that Trump will hold after predicting his arrest. On Capitol Hill, I'm Scott Thuman. Now back to you.
Right, Scott, thank you. We'll continue to stay with Fox 45 News as we await a decision on a possible indictment of the former president. When we're not on the air, we'll pass along any developments online at foxbaltimore.com.
All right, well, we are tracking the next weather maker, and you see signs of it across our sky, some high clouds. That's ahead of our next risk of rain. And tomorrow, probably going to be a lot more unsettled of a day. Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam right now. Overall, a nice shot, but we do have those mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures at 68. Winds out of the west-southwest at 10 miles an hour. That's a mild direction, and that's why those temperatures are warmer today. Our dew point is still nice and low at 25 degrees with our dew point at our dew point's at 25, but our relative humidity is only at about 20%. So it is nice and dry still. So that's preventing any rain from making it our way yet. Temperatures, again, mid to upper 60s generally right near the water with that kind of southerly wind. We are still influenced somewhat by the Chesapeake Bay water temperatures. That's why it's a little bit cooler up toward Bel Air as well as Elkton and all the way down to Annapolis. We do again have some extra clouds today, some sunshine eastern shore, but where the clouds are emanating from out to our west is where they are thickest, and they will continue to roll in through the overnight hours, even some rain potentially by tomorrow morning. Temperatures again making the mid to upper 60s to near 70 already. Even Annapolis at 60 degrees, some 50s up in ski country out toward Oakland and some 50s in Ocean City as well. So that next weather maker, there it is. You can actually see some of the rain from Chicago, even some thunderstorms there. Charlotte, Atlanta, there's some rain as well. That's what's been giving us some of the clouds. And then there's more that's down here. Let's get out of South America here for a minute. But that's all the way up here toward the western portion of the United States. There you go. Major system all the way from Billings down to about Denver. That will be the second round of rain. And actually, it's snow now, but rain by the time it gets here in the warmer air, that makes it to us for tomorrow. So let's plan things out. Our overnight future scan goes with some clouds thickening up. Maybe a stray shower as we head toward tomorrow morning, but better rain chances as we head through 8 a.m. through noontime on Thursday. Could even have a rumble in there, wouldn't be surprised. Temperatures do warm up, though, as that rain moves away during the afternoon and evening. Probably low to mid 70s, but I think we'll get back into some more showers as cooler air, at least temporarily, moves in as we head into the day on Friday. So you're getting the picture here. It does turn more unsettled. Temperatures bobble from 73 tomorrow, mainly morning and midday showers, to 55 on Friday. More showers on Saturday. Lighter stuff, though, 61. And then near average before a cooler rain moves in by the middle of next week.
And looking ahead, we are just 3 days away from this year's Be More Healthy Expo. It's this Saturday at the Baltimore Convention Center from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The expo can help guide you on your journey towards a healthier lifestyle. You can receive a free health screening. Just check out cooking demonstrations and even learn about life-saving skills. And our news team will be down there, so make sure to come on and say hi. The feds are raising interest rates once again. Straight ahead, what you should keep in mind as uncertainty looms over the economy and your retirement.
New warning today from the CDC about Candida auris. It's a fungal infection. I'm Liz Bonis, but we all need to know about it just ahead.
Well, the CDC now asking hospitals to be on alert for a potentially deadly fungal infection that's now on the rise here in the U.S. Medical reporter Liz Bonis explains why.
Hey there, everybody. The CDC says the fungal infection known as Candida auris, or C. auris as it's called, is spreading at an alarming rate. It is especially dangerous to people who are severely ill or who have weakened immune systems.
Infectious disease specialists tell us you are more at risk for the infection when you might need treatment in, say, the intensive care unit. C. auris gets into the bloodstream through an opening in the skin, causing fever, chills, and in some cases sepsis that leads to death.
If it just lives on the surface of the skin, it's not dangerous, but if it gets in your blood or your urine or someplace it shouldn't be, then it can cause big problems.
Dr. Stephen Blatt of Ohio's Tri-Health says hospitals are now on alert to detect C. auris. He told me his team already has a tracking and testing program in place. They have had confirmed cases, which when treated with medication do usually go away within weeks. The problem?
This particular yeast, Candida auris, tends to be resistant to a lot of the medicines we normally use. So it can thrive and survive in conditions where others cannot.
The CDC's new warning about C. auris was just published in the Annals of Medicine. It analyzed data from state and local health departments from 2016 to 2021. In 2016, just 756 people reportedly got sick from C. auris. By 2021, that number nearly doubled. Those who had the illness in the body but did not get sick from it, that number also went up more than 200% when COVID hit. Here is likely why.
Intravenous lines, ventilators, urine catheters, all those things that we use to keep patients alive in critical care is where this fungus likes to live.
Now, the concern, of course, is that as with other infections such as MRSA, if C. auris becomes common and we don't have treatments for it, we won't be able to stop it from harming those at risk. I'm medical reporter Liz Bonus. Now back to you.
A vote of confidence from the Federal Reserve. I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington with what they decided on our interest rates.
And a deadly crash on the Beltway. We have the latest after at least 6 people were killed this afternoon.
Fox 45 is on the scene of a massive crash on the inner loop of the Beltway.
This is right by Woodlawn, and we understand at least 6 people are confirmed dead.
Keith Daniels is live near the scene right now with more on what we're learning. Keith?
Guy, we just got notification from the Maryland State Police. They say they're working now to try to contact the next of kin of these people killed here in this crash. Their names not released until that time. Now, you may be able to hear media helicopters above me, all of us taking note here of what happened here on the Beltway. Traffic moving slowly on this side of the Beltway and on the surrounding roads. State Police responded to this crash at about 12:40 this afternoon, a crash at the inner loop of I-695 at Security Boulevard. At least 6 people dead. Now, the exact cause of this crash now under investigation. And of course, State Police are telling us no idea when this will all be cleared up, because naturally it's going to take some time to try to figure out exactly how this happened. We're live now in Woodlawn. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
All right, Keith, thank you. As that traffic backups continue to watch in Baltimore County Public Schools are now working to get students home safely. In fact, County Executive Johnny Olszewski is offering his prayers to the families of those affected. Governor Wes Moore has said that his office is in touch with local authorities and will continue to monitor the situation. He's offering condolences to the victims and their families. All eyes are on the Federal Reserve and its fight to fight inflation. The Fed's announced another interest rate hike. It's a move that was highly anticipated until the collapse of 2 banks and the deep uncertainties by many more. We have team coverage right now. Financial expert Dan White is standing by live with important information for those planning their retirement.
First, national correspondent Christine Frizzell is in Washington with today's developments.
Good afternoon.
At the Federal Reserve, a decision to stay the course.
My colleagues and I understand the hardship that high inflation is causing, and we remain strongly committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal.
With inflation still sitting at 6%, the Fed opting to raise interest rates another 1/4 percentage point, despite calls by some economists to take a pause. After the failure of 2 banks, credited in part to those previous rate hikes making long-term investments made by the banks worth far less, leaving other banks and the market itself on shaky ground. Chairman Jerome Powell suggesting those events could also help cool inflation.
We believe, however, that events in the banking system over the past 2 weeks are likely to result in tighter credit conditions for households and businesses, which would in turn affect economic outcomes.
The last few weeks have seen bank buyouts and what some have called bank bailouts, with depositors' money they thought they had lost now saved. But none of that takes away from the fact that Americans are still spending money like crazy. That fact has pushed airfares up 26.5% from a year ago. Feeding Fido, that's going to cost more than 15% more. And let's not even talk about those essential eggs, up more than 55%. All examples of why the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates so aggressively 1 year ago, and so far hasn't stopped.
When you raise interest rates and you raise them as fast as the Fed has and as high as they have over the past year, things are going to start to wobble and break, and it's going to feel uncomfortable.
Those uncomfortable feelings, he predicts, could last another 12 to 18 months. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzell.
Well, to continue this discussion is Dan White. He's a personal finance expert. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
For those planning their retirement, the state of the economy obviously is on top of everybody's minds.
Yeah. So let's talk about some tips that you might have to include people who are, diversifying their retirement savings. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, I think that's the key. I mean, we know there's going to be market swings up and down. We're having volatility with the banks at this point. Everybody's kind of predicting there's a recession on the horizon. And I think diversification is the key. You got to spread your assets over different classes. You want to have some that might be, immune to inflation, can pass on price hikes to the consumer. And the other thing to consider is also be diversified from a tax strategy standpoint. You want to have some in taxable assets, maybe in tax deferred and tax free. You want to be prepared for all types of situations, and I think diversification is the key.
All right, Dan, that sounds good, and I know that affects a lot of people. If you have a 401k, maybe a pension or some other kind of retirement plan, an IRA. What about a mom living in Baltimore with 2 kids or a family of 4? They're working the gig economy and maybe working at the local supermarket. They don't have any retirement and there's no 401k being offered. What would you advise to those families?
I mean, you got to have liquidity. I mean, obviously you have to pay some bills, you know, so you have to have an emergency fund. I mean, ideally people have 3 to 6 months. I know that's tough with a lot of people stretching the budgets today. I just saw your piece on inflation and everything's skyrocketing in price. We understand that. You got to tighten the belt. You know, you have to have some cash flow. You got to have some savings not tied up, because there was a report a while back that the average American, if they had a $400 expense, they wouldn't be able to come up with the cash. So I think it's important to try to squirrel a little money away so you have that emergency fund and you have that liquidity.
Yeah, and you talk about inflation and tightening the belt. Any tips on how people can do that?
Yeah, it's tough in today's economy. It really is. I mean, you have to really buckle down and think about what, you know, needs versus wants. I mean, you know, that line gets a little blurry sometimes. People think they need something, and maybe that's more of a want than a need. I mean, you got to put food on the table. You got to pay your electric bill. You got to have health insurance, all that type of thing. And everything else, maybe you cut back on the cable bill. Maybe you don't buy the coffee on the way to work. You know, maybe you check the subscriptions that you're currently paying for. There's probably a little bit of fat in everybody's budget, and if you can slice that out, it'll make things a little easier and make your dollar go a little further.
Yeah, those little things, they certainly do add up. Good advice. We've been speaking with Dan White. He's a personal finance expert. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, Dan.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
You too.
He had one priority, and I'll repeat that again, Mr. Chair, one priority this legislative session.
Senator Corey McCray, who represents Baltimore, is throwing his support behind crime legislation being pushed by City State's Attorney Ivan Bates, legislation that's facing a battle. Despite crime being a major issue in Baltimore and other parts of Maryland, it took more than 2 months for the powerful Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee to take up the bill. Ivan Bates is seeking to raise the maximum penalty for illegal gun possession for people over 21 from 3 to 5 years. Right now, someone between the age of 18 and 20 charged with the same crime faces a maximum sentence of 5 years. Because it's a misdemeanor, people only have to serve 25% of the sentence in many cases. While Bates facing questions about concerns of mass incarceration.
A lot of us have that initial allergy to this type of proposal because of books.
I've gone to too many funerals. I've gone to and watched too many people and young boys and young men and young kids and young ladies who look like me and you that are dying and losing their life. But I also do it because I know I love these kids and I have to hold them accountable.
A longtime Baltimore pastor was also in Annapolis showing his support for Ivan Bates and the legislation.
Megan Gillen spoke with Pastor P.M. Smith and has the latest on the bill.
Tonight, the fate of a bill backed by Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates remains unclear. Appearing before a Senate committee yesterday, he pushed to raise the maximum penalty for illegal gun possession from 3 years to 5 for those 21 and older. Lifelong Baltimore resident Pastor P.M. Smith was in Annapolis for yesterday's hearing.
I was asked to come in the event they needed some community input. The sponsor of the bill was Senator McCray. He did an excellent job. There were some questions that were asked that he couldn't answer, so that's when Mr. Bates had to step in, and he did an excellent job. Very disappointed that they didn't make some decision yesterday, but I believe the bill will be successful in the Senate.
We heard from both sides of the bill here, those for it, those against it. What stood out most to you?
What stood out to me is this. It's a democratically dominated Senate and House. We hired Mr. Bates to fight crime. Who would think that he would have to fight his own Democratic Party in order to do something about crime in Baltimore City?
The committee did not vote on the legislation yesterday, and at this point, it's still not clear when or if that will happen. I'm Megan Gillen, Fox 45 News.
One of the biggest pieces of legislation lawmakers are poised to pass this year does not address illegal guns, but legal gun owners. The Gun Safety Act limits where Marylanders with wear and carry permits can bring their weapons. Supporters say it will reduce crime. Critics say it will do the opposite, preventing legal gun owners from being armed where they might need their weapon the most.
It makes absolutely no sense to allow someone to carry a gun and then tell them they can't carry a gun essentially anywhere but inside their house or their front yard.
The court in Bruin said that anyone can take any weapon anywhere at any time. I think that's dangerous, and so Maryland needs to respond.
Well, the bill is in response to a Supreme Court decision that found New York's gun law requiring applicants to give reason for carrying a weapon unconstitutional. The decision makes it easier to get a wear and carry permit in Maryland as well. Now, many claim this session's Gun Safety Act is unconstitutional and would be struck down if passed.
And the state legislature is also advancing the Trans Health Equity Act. All the bill needs for final approval is the governor's signature. And while some gender-affirming care is already covered by Medicare, the bill will expand the number of procedures available to those who are transitioning. Supporters argue the additional services are critical for the mental and physical health of transgender Marylanders, while opponents say taxpayer money should not be used on what they say are cosmetic surgeries.
It seems discriminatory to utilize Medicaid money for cosmetic surgeries, fertility services that aren't offered to other people on Medicaid.
This bill allows some of our most vulnerable Marylanders to be able to access medically necessary care.
Well, that brings us to our question of the day. Do you believe Annapolis lawmakers are acting in your best interest? Yes or no? So far, 97% say no. To cast your vote, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
The Baltimore City Public Schools is one of the lowest performing large school systems in the country, raising questions over whether the state should intervene. State takeovers happened frequently in the 1990s in cities like Boston, Detroit, and Philadelphia. But were those districts more successful after being taken over? A report that looked into the Detroit takeover found startling mismanagement by state managers, including an estimated $610 million in wasteful spending and a failure to address plummeting student achievement and enrollment.
At what point should a state consider taking over a school system?
Before we talk about a takeover, let's talk about a takeaway. Why do we take away some of the regulatory impediments that stop reform?
Well, tonight at 10 o'clock, the positive effects a state takeover can have and the other options Maryland could consider for helping to improve Baltimore City schools and other schools around the state. And it's peak season for the cherry blossoms around Maryland. We'll take you to Washington, D.C. for the festival underway.
And your commuter forecast for this evening, nice and quiet, although clouds will begin to increase. Temperatures have been well into the 60s, dropping to the 50s as we hit sunset. I'm going to let you know when rain is going to mar your commutes, though. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
We are getting new information in that horrific crash on the inner loop of the Beltway on 695. 6 people have perished in this accident. It happened in a work zone near Security Boulevard, in between like the Liberty Road exit and Security Boulevard exit. If you're familiar with that area, Maryland State Police say, according to a preliminary investigation, an Acura entered the work zone traveling in between temporary Jersey walls, striking multiple construction workers before finally overturning. The driver, whose identity is unknown, was taken to shock trauma for treatment. Now, meantime, you can see drivers are still experiencing really major delays as they navigate through that area. We'll stay on the scene right now and let you know when more information is available. You can be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab.
And meanwhile, around here, we are waiting on our next weather maker. And get a load of this, just east of downtown Los Angeles, out of some of the waves of moisture that are going to be affecting us as the next weather maker. How about this? This is possible tornado damage. I've seen some funnel cloud video. Pretty amazing stuff. Doesn't happen here very often, but this is actually damage to some what looks like maybe factory structures or warehouse structures, roofs torn off. They've just been getting hammered and nailed in portions of the West Coast over the past several days, and in fact, the past several months. Another one of these atmospheric river storm systems, and some of that moisture is spreading eastbound. But the thing is with those, they kind of lose their definition and their energy as they exit the West Coast. So we are going to get some rain around here, but it's not going to be anything like the severity that they're seeing out there in California. Some rain down to the south, down towards Charlotte and North Carolina, some rain around Chicago, even some thunderstorms. But here in Baltimore, we're just kind of shrouded in clouds. There is that next weather maker, part and parcel of all that really bad weather right around Los Angeles. You can see, again, some of the rain and thunderstorms here, going to snow over portions of the Intermountain West. We are mild ahead of all of that. Notice the rain kind of surrounding us. Again, we are going to get some of that tonight into tomorrow. And with more of that train of moisture siphoning across the central and then eventually east portion of the country, we're going to be dealing with unsettled weather for the next several days. But some warmer weather, too. Again, it's off of the Pacific that we're seeing this moisture, not out of Canada or through the Gulf Coast. So it looks like, again, we're going to see a gradual warming trend. But unfortunately, yes, into tomorrow, it does turn wetter. And then again on Friday, there's more moisture loaded up to cause all kinds of problems around here. 68 degrees, mile 1 Townsend Cam. One last dry day. Winds out of the west-southwest at 10 miles an hour. Temperatures across the board in the 60s, some 50s near the water. We do have some of those extra clouds that are trying to already move in. Overnight tonight, I think it's mainly just cloud cover, although toward morning there could be a stray shower. There's that rain I was talking about, especially morning, midday on Thursday. Should start moving south, at least for a time, Thursday afternoon. So there might be some drier time as we go to the low to mid 70s. And there's more of that rain heading toward us on Friday. But Friday is a cooler day before we're recovered to near 60 on Saturday. Some more light showers at least. And then temperatures going to be well into the 50s to near 60 into early next week. And again, that next weather maker going to wet us down into early weekend. So get ready with the umbrellas once again.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Earlier today, a magnificent sight over Curtis Creek. Our drone captured this morning. Look at this. This is the Curtis Creek drawbridge being lifted. Looks like for a barge to come through that has a crane attached to it. You know what I think, too, folks? This might be a nice time, if you're so inclined to do so, to get your rod and your reel, your fishing gear, and get out there in the early morning while it's cool and get some of those fish out there biting. Might even catch a crab or two. If you can, it's legal. Well, we are counting down to peak bloom time for the cherry blossoms at the Tidal Basin in Washington, D.C. This is a live look, by the way. And today's warm weather will make it great to check out those trees. And again, remember, you can do the same thing here in the Baltimore area, especially at Fort McHenry. Now, large crowds have been flocking to the Tidal Basin to stroll among the cherry blossoms this first week of spring. Now, those trees were planted in 1912. They were a gift of friendship from the people of Japan. And ever since that time, they've helped mark the arrival of spring in the nation's capital. And the National Park Service has just done an outstanding job taking care of those trees over the years, pruning them, caring for them, because they are very delicate, especially around the wintertime. Whether it's visiting the cherry blossoms or taking a walk through your own neighborhood, we'd like to see how you are enjoying spring weather. Use your phone's camera to scan that QR code on your screen. That will take you to our website where you can upload your pictures and videos, and you might see them on Fox 45 News or on our website as well. You can also use the Fox 45 mobile app as well. Very convenient. Coming up at 5 o'clock, a book about the former governor and defending one of his top aides who's now on the run from law enforcement. The latest in the search for Roy McGrath. And we'll take you to Harford County, where women are making big strides in business. You can celebrate Women's History Month and support women business owners across the state. Be More lifestyle host Mark Clark is in Harford County with how women in Maryland are making a difference in all areas of business.
Sadie's here. Say Delicious. Her parents own, mom and dad own the spot here, right?
Yep, me and my mom.
I'm sorry, that's right, girl. It's you and mom, okay. And so we're gonna release the Kraken?
Yes, we are this morning. So what we do, this is our famous Kraken cookie. We sell out every day.
Wow.
So what we do is we're gonna start with this caramel right here.
Okay.
We're gonna squeeze at the top, and it'll come out, and you're just gonna drizzle that on there, back and forth.
Drizzle it just a little bit. You guys don't remember that song, sorry. All right. Okay. Okay. You
side
did
to side, round to corner.
Wow.
That's okay.
You didn't tell me. See, Sadie, you didn't tell me that. Okay, fine.
Then we're gonna take the pretzels.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna grab some, and you're gonna sprinkle them around the cookie.
Okay. Release the
Kraken. As much as you want. Perfect. Then you're gonna grab the chocolate, and then I do it in the opposite direction, but you can go up and down. I go up and down.
All right. This is gonna be, this is a low-calorie Kraken.
Oh, yeah. It's good for the soul.
And you actually do this. People can do this here at your place, right?
Yes, we actually do custom cookies, so sugar cookies with decorating.
I love it.
We do them every month. We also do birthday parties. The kids can pick the themes. It's really cool. And then you're going to take the salt, and you can just sprinkle it on.
All right.
And the best part about the Kraken is our mascot's name is Iggy. He travels around and finds gold.
Really?
So we top our cookies with edible gold. You can just sprinkle that on there as
Edible
well.
gold. Okay, so this is beautiful. Aberdeen, Say Delicious. Come see Sadie and her mom and her dad. He's here too.
Yeah, note to self, we'll be there. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, marijuana growers around Maryland say regulations could kill the hemp industry in the state. The concerns from business owners who say a policy in Annapolis should be changed. And we're following that deadly crash on the Beltway, the latest on this breaking news. Fox 45 News is live on the scene of breaking news, a deadly crash on the inner loop of the Beltway.
Yeah, just devastating. This is right near Woodlawn, and at this hour, we know at least 6 people are confirmed dead after a car plowed through a construction zone, we're learning.
Keith Daniels is live near the scene right now with what we're learning. In fact, he's got a view above it. Keith?
That's right, Kai. We're live at the bridge over the Beltway at Windsor Mill Road. Just take a look over here. You can see where the traffic, the backup rather, in the traffic still very active here. Now, at this hour, we're learning more about what happened here. Maryland State Police say, according to a preliminary investigation and for reasons unknown at this time, an Acura entered the work zone, traveling in between temporary placed jersey walls, striking several construction workers before overturning. Again, 6 people, at least 6 people, they say, killed in this crash. The Maryland State Police traffic team is now working to determine exactly how all of this happened. Meantime, a mess for traffic on the Beltway and the roadways surrounding the Beltway at this area, including here on Windsor Mill, where traffic has been moving very slowly. State highway officials say that they are trying to adjust the street lights to time them better so it could help, or rather so it can help traffic move a bit better. So again, a deadly crash here at the Beltway near Security Boulevard, at least 6 people dead. We're live now in Windsor Mill. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Right, Keith, thank you. Well, a note for parents. Baltimore County Public Schools say the crash and the resulting traffic will delay bus routes tonight. So the district is working as quickly as possible to get your kids home.
As the family and friends of 16-year-old Isaiah Carter laid their loved one to rest, tonight questions surround the 23-year-old accused of killing him. Now, that incident took place 2 weeks ago when Carter was gunned down near his high school, which is Patterson High.
Now police say the alleged gunman has been arrested in Texas, detained as he was attempting to escape the country. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live with the latest on the investigation. Rebecca?
Well, authorities say that they are still waiting for that suspect to be brought back to Baltimore. In the meantime, concerns still remain over students leaving school in the middle of the day and reports of ongoing problems inside Patterson High School.
23-year-old Roger Alvarado Mendoza, arrested miles away from the scene of the crime in southern Texas. Police claiming he was caught as he was trying to flee to Mexico. Mendoza now facing first-degree murder charges for the shooting death of 16-year-old Isaiah Carter, a Baltimore City teen gunned down just blocks from Patterson High School.
Good afternoon, everyone.
On Monday, police revealing little information at a press conference announcing Mendoza's arrest.
Could you help Mr. Alvarado Mendoza's immigration status? So immigration status is part of this ongoing investigation. We do not have a motive at this time.
Fox 45 has since obtained documents uncovering at least one prior offense. Mendoza charged with first-degree burglary back in 2018, an offense that carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, but Mendoza only given 6 months behind bars. Today, police still unable to confirm Mendoza's motive and full criminal history. Meanwhile,
Something's going on at that school. They can say what they want. Yeah. Something's going on there.
On WBAL radio this morning, Sergeant Clyde Boatwright with the Baltimore City Schools Police Force questioned about what led up to the shooting.
Is there an ongoing problem between Hispanic students there and black students? Because that's the real concern of that particular school.
I'll say to the degree that I know or can share, I don't know what the motive is in this case. It's concerning that you have a 23-year-old adult male that is in close proximity of a school, and he's armed with a handgun, and there are teenage kids, engaged in an altercation, and one of them ends up shot and killed.
Boatwright also concerned with the number of students coming and going from city schools in the middle of the day without permission. So far this year, at least 2 students have been shot and killed during school hours just outside of school grounds. But according to Boatwright,
walking out of school or cutting class or something like that, that's an administrative violation.
But what is the punishment? What happens to that kid?
At school police, we are completely removed from the discipline process. So we don't even know if it's a 1-day suspension or a 2-day suspension. We just don't know.
So who is watching the students, and why are school police officers being left in the dark? Today, Fox 45 sent questions to city schools asking, is gang affiliation or racially charged disputes an ongoing problem between students at Patterson High School? What is the school doing to prevent further violence between students? And how can school police officers know when a student should or shouldn't be on school grounds if they're removed from the discipline process? City schools not responding.
Now, as for when Mendoza will be extradited to Baltimore, police couldn't give us an exact timeline tonight, but we will continue to keep you updated as this story progresses. Reporting live from the control room, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. 7 Baltimore City school students have been killed this year, and we're taking a look at who they are. This is Deja Garrison. She was the first person killed in Baltimore City in 2023 and on New Year's Day. 16-year-old Deontay Dorsey was killed outside the Edmondson Village Shopping Center in January, not far from his school, Edmondson Westside High. 4 other students were also hurt in that shooting. Now, days after that, 15-year-old LaRon Henderson was killed in an alley just blocks from his school, Forest Park High.
And just yesterday, another gun was found in a Baltimore City school. 2 students from Bluford Drew Jemison STEM Academy West were arrested yesterday morning. Investigators say one student brought a gun to school, then asked another student to hold it for him. Both were taken into custody after multiple students told staffers about that weapon. This is the 13th gun found on a city school campus this year.
Developing right now, a crash lands a suspended Baltimore police officer in jail after investigators say she had drugs in her car and was illegally carrying a loaded firearm. This is the 3rd Baltimore Police Department officer to make headlines for criminal charges in less than a week. Alexa Ashwell joins us live right now with details on this arrest. Alexa.
Question is why this officer was suspended in the first place. A police source telling Fox 45 News she was caught drinking while on duty. BPD would not confirm this detail, but this is the latest officer now facing criminal charges in a city she swore to protect and serve. An illegally possessed handgun, drugs, and an attempt to get rid of the incriminating evidence, all outlined in these charging documents in the case against Baltimore police officer Unique Shepard. On March 20th, while suspended of her police powers from the Baltimore Police Department, investigators say Shepard was involved in a car accident at this intersection of West Pratt and Mount Streets in Baltimore. According to court documents, in Shepard's car, a responding sergeant found a white plastic bag containing various suspected edible cannabis treats and 2 grinders with suspected cannabis residue. And on her person, a Glock 43 handgun loaded with 6 9mm live rounds. Investigators detailing Shepard's departmental firearm was taken from her when she got suspended, and she did not have a carry permit. Shepard was arrested and is now facing 2 gun charges. As for the drugs and paraphernalia, court documents read Officer Shepard signaled to her girlfriend by nodding to the vehicle, and that's when the girlfriend removed the items and then fled the scene.
These allegations and these indictments are unacceptable for anyone in our city, but especially for law enforcement officers.
It was less than a week ago that Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates announced criminal indictments against 2 other Baltimore police officers. Sergeant Larry Worsley for an assault at a bar in the city earlier this month, where investigators say he assaulted a woman and pulled out a gun, and Officer Walter Wilson, who was accused of sexual misconduct against another BPD officer while on duty back in October 2021. It was then Bates expressed his frustration, saying this is about rebuilding the public's trust in a city's long-strained relationship between police and the public.
You're seeing them working hard, seeing what they're doing on body camera, and then it's alleged that you see these types of actions by a few. I'm angry.
This, yet another example. Now, according to BPD, Shepard has been with the department since November 2020. The department has not confirmed why she was originally suspended, but confirmed that happened about 4 months ago. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, with about 3 weeks left in the General Assembly session, there's a lot of attention on the bill to create the framework for Maryland's legal marijuana industry. But in that language is regulation the hemp industry says would put them out of business. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost visited a farm and explains how these hemp leaders say lawmakers are being misled.
So this is obviously dried.
Hemp product on full display inside this warehouse at a hemp farm. Each bud is business, but that business could be at risk.
Inside of this massive bill, there's a few lines in there that threaten to upend the entirety of the hemp industry.
Nicholas Patrick, standing in a barren hemp field now ahead of the growing season, got into the industry after going through chemo in 2012 and saw the benefits of the plant.
I started using CBD flower and smoking CBD flower to help me when I was going through a lot of this stuff.
With $8,000 he and his wife saved up, he opened Embrace CBD Wellness, selling CBD and other hemp-derived products like oils and Delta 8, which uses a less potent strain of THC than what you think of with the traditional marijuana. As lawmakers in Annapolis hash out the details of a legal pot industry for adults in time for the July 1st deadline approved by voters in November,
they have 90 days essentially to set up a $2 billion industry.
There's language in the massive bill also targeting hemp.
That THC milligram cap will make it so that the only product that we will be able to sell would be a CBD isolate product.
Lawmakers are looking to cap the THC levels in these products that Patrick says is a way for state government to push regulations on a market that had been unregulated for years.
We've been asking since 2018 for the Department of Agriculture to step in and regulate hemp products. They've decided not to do so, which has led to a very large unregulated industry.
Patrick is also the co-founder of Maryland Healthy Alternatives Association, and the products he sells depend on farmers like Levi Sellers.
So as it stands right now, the existing hemp industry will completely be gutted.
Sellers has a farm in Washington County and is also the president of the Maryland Hemp Coalition. Like Patrick, Sellers says the current bill with the THC cap in place would mean a bleak future for him.
With this language, it will effectively shut down the products that we produce, which will completely bankrupt my farm, and we will be forced to close our doors and move out of state.
After the 2018 federal farm bill passed, opening the door for hemp to grow, the businesses were largely unregulated. And now, Sellers and Patrick say Maryland is trying to claw back some of that control with legal cannabis coming.
They're taking the industry that we created, handing it to the existing cannabis establishment, and then locking the door behind them. All we're asking for is a seat at the table under this regulation.
Both agree regulation is not a bad thing. It can keep bad actors out and allow the hemp industry overall to continue to grow.
Regulation would look like packaging, labeling, testing requirements for the products, also identifiers.
But they believe the adult use cannabis industry is trying to snuff out the hemp industry.
I believe the cannabis industry is trying to consolidate and monopolize the market.
We do believe that the MMCC is misleading the legislature intentionally to use the legislative body who doesn't have malicious intent toward our industry to crush a competitor. They're cutting us out of our industry.
The hemp leaders argue the demand is for lower potency product, but with legal marijuana market brings big money.
Honestly, I think it's based on greed.
And Sellers says he's tried to utilize his industry resources to help government carve out a space for hemp.
The former administration was not welcome to that. We have some hopes that the current administration would be willing to go that route, which would effectively save the hemp industry.
But with roughly 20 days left in session, Sellers says Governor Wes Moore hasn't been in touch with them.
It has not happened so far, and again, I think we're running out of time.
And if the bill as written becomes law, these guys pushing for hemp to continue to grow and expand options for people to utilize the products won't have many choices. And for Patrick and his 3 shops, the future looks dark.
If they become restricted the way that this bill restricts them, we will have no products left to sell, and all of us will have to shutter our doors by July 1st.
Now, we didn't get any comments from a cannabis industry group or lawmakers when we reached out with our questions. If this bill does pass in its current form and becomes law, these hemp players could apply for a license through the newly regulated cannabis industry, but it's unlikely they would get a license right away. We're live in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. A robbery victim shoots his attacker in self-defense, according to police. The concerns a bill making its way through the state legislature could leave people defenseless in similar situations.
And a mysterious book out tonight defending Roy McGrath, what the book claims as the search for the former governor's chief of staff continues.
And the next weather maker is going to be rolling in with a risk of some rain by Thursday morning. I'm going to let you know how long that's going to last and how much warmer it's going to be tomorrow afternoon. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 continues our coverage of breaking news out of Woodlawn, Baltimore County, after a massive crash on the inner loop of the Beltway leaves at least 6 people dead. Now, according to a preliminary investigation, Maryland State Police say an Acura entered the work zone near Security Boulevard, striking multiple construction workers before overturning. The driver, whose identity is unknown, was taken to shock trauma for treatment. In the meantime, you can see drivers are still experiencing pretty major delays as they navigate through that area. And state police, of course, are still investigating. We'll stay on the scene and let you know when we have any new information.
Also breaking tonight, 2 school administrators shot at a Denver high school. Police say that shooting happened this morning after a handgun was found during a security screening. One of the victims is in critical condition. The other is stable.
Well, it looks like there will not be an indictment for former President Donald Trump today. A New York grand jury is still weighing evidence before a vote on possible charges against Trump in relation to the Stormy Daniels alleged hush money case, though it is not meeting today. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is investigating whether Trump falsified business records. Trump maintains that he is not guilty of a crime. Well, the iconic Yoshino cherry trees are near peak bloom in Washington, D.C. In fact, large crowds are flocking to the tidal basin to stroll among the cherry blossoms for this first week of spring. Now, those trees were planted back in 1912, and they were a gift of friendship from the people of Japan. Thank you, people of Japan. Ever since that time, they've held the arrival of spring in the nation's capital, and they are in full bloom, albeit a bit early this year, Maxine.
Yeah, they are. I've actually never seen them, so maybe I need to take a trip. And meanwhile, this is a look at the conditions here in the Baltimore area tonight. On the left, the Inner Harbor, the right, a live look at Towson. It's been another beautiful, very spring-like day with temperatures in the 60s and sunny skies, but of course, rain could be coming to dampen our spirits.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, but rain and mild temperatures all helps the blossoms continue to open up.
True.
They've been kind of in the late stage 5, stage 6 of 6, kind of getting into that peak bloom almost at this point. And hey, a little bit of rain can't hurt the spirits down there at D.C. If you went on this afternoon, this evening, or you maybe have some plans to kind of fit that in after work or as we head towards the end of the day, we'll be fine. But then, yeah, it looks like the rain is headed our way. There's a batch around Chicago, Atlanta, Charlotte. There's some there. And then there's more out towards the West Coast. Denver out toward Los Angeles. Actually had a tornado today, if you wouldn't believe it, a few hours ago. Actually, about 2 hours ago in the Los Angeles metro area. Hard to believe. Doesn't happen there very often. But around here, we've been on the quieter side of the country, that's for sure. Mild, few showers again. From Atlanta to Chicago, could get clipped by some of those tonight. And then there's more of this weather maker that's kind of strung out across the country. And then eventually it actually works all the way back down to the equatorial Pacific. And that's where this kind of moisture hose, if you will, has been coming from. And we're going to see some waves of heavier precipitation within that, actually like what they've seen on the West Coast, although not quite as severe, over the next several days. So as we work our way through tomorrow, this is our next weather maker coming, especially during the morning and midday. There could be a round of showers, then a mild afternoon. But then by tomorrow night into Friday, more rain comes in as we load it up again. You see that jet stream going with a storm track going all the way through Texas, and eventually it originates back in California and actually all the way back down toward Hawaii. So lots of moisture going to be moving our way, and we actually could even have a little bit of heavy rain in there as well as we head through the Thursday, Friday, Saturday time frame on and off. Toyota Inner Harbor Skycam right now at 66, winds out of the southwest at 14. Humidity is dry at 20%, dew points in the 20s, temperatures in the 50s along the bay side, but you get away from the cooler waters of the Chesapeake. We're well into the 60s, but the clouds are beginning to come in with those milder temperatures. Here we go. Future scan overnight into early tomorrow morning. Could see a spot shower after midnight. Better rain chances come tomorrow morning, tomorrow midday. Maybe a little break, but there will still be the at least risk of showers tomorrow afternoon. Highs probably low to mid 70s. And there's some more of that rain again as we head into Friday. Computer models, man, they just put out a good slathering here of umbrella weather the next couple of days after this afternoon and this evening. So outdoor activities okay through sunset, then we start going downhill. In terms of rain, anywhere up to about an inch, maybe inch and a half of rain by the time we hit midday on Friday, and there's going to be more into Saturday as well. So 73 showers mild, especially morning time on Thursday, on and off rain Friday. So mainly, I think, morning showers again on Saturday, a high 61. And then we work to milder temperatures to wrap up the weekend into early next week.
Well, where is Roy McGrath? The latest on the search as we start reading the book just released about his time working for former Governor Hogan.
A vote of confidence from the Federal Reserve. I'm Christine Frizzell in Washington with what they decided on our interest rates.
Another interest rate hike by the Federal Reserve. It's a move that was highly anticipated until the collapse of two banks. National correspondent Christine Frizzell has the latest.
Good afternoon.
At the Federal Reserve, a decision to stay the course.
My colleagues and I understand the hardship that high inflation is causing, and we remain strongly committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal.
With inflation still sitting at 6%, the Fed opting to raise interest rates another 1/4 percentage point, despite calls by some economists to take a pause. After the failure of two banks, credited in part to those previous rate hikes making long-term investments made by the banks worth far less, leaving other banks and the market itself on shaky ground. Chairman Jerome Powell suggesting those events could also help cool inflation.
We believe, however, that events in the banking system over the past 2 weeks are likely to result in tighter credit conditions for households and businesses, which would in turn affect economic outcomes.
The last few weeks have seen bank buyouts and what some have called bank bailouts, with depositors' money they thought they had lost now saved. But none of that takes away from the fact that Americans are still spending money like crazy. That fact has pushed airfares up 26.5% from a year ago. Feeding Fido, that's going to cost more than 15% more. And let's not even talk about those essential eggs, up more than 55%.
All examples of why the Federal Reserve started raising interest rates so aggressively 1 year ago, and so far hasn't stopped.
When you raise interest rates and you raise them as fast as the Fed has and as high as they have over the past year, things are going to start to wobble and break, and it's going to feel uncomfortable.
Those uncomfortable feelings, he predicts, could last another 12 to 18 months. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
A book defending Roy McGrath now available. The claims it's making about his time in the Hogan administration as the manhunt for him continues. And a deadly shooting now deemed justified. What we're learning about an attempted robbery this year and why some are saying the victim may not have been able to protect himself if new gun legislation goes through. Plus, we're still following the latest on today's tragic Baltimore Beltway crash. What we're learning from the scene tonight as traffic remains snarled at this hour.
Fox 45 is on the scene of live breaking news at this hour. There's been a massive and deadly crash in a construction zone on the inner loop of the Beltway.
At least 6 people are confirmed dead.
Keith Daniels is live near that scene in Baltimore County with the current situation. Keith?
We're live on a bridge above the Beltway here at Windsor Mill. Take a look now. Traffic much improved at this hour. All lanes appear to be open on the outer loop. At this area near Security Boulevard, the deadly crash happened at a work zone on the inner loop at about 12:40 today. Now, Maryland State Police say a preliminary investigation indicates a car entered the work zone in between Jersey walls, struck construction workers, and overturned. Now, State Police say they're continuing to notify the families of those who died. They say the driver of that car was taken to shock trauma. Now, a state police crash team is investigating, trying to determine exactly how this happened. We're live Live now in Woodlawn, Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
The number of people murdered in Baltimore is apparently down by one after police say a shooting last month was justified.
According to police, 42-year-old Joseph Garrison was shot when he attempted to rob a legal gun owner.
That's right. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has more on what cases like this could mean if Senate Bill 1, which prohibits carrying a firearm in public, becomes law. Vincent?
Yeah, Kai, that justifiable homicide calling into question Senate Bill 1 that goes after legal gun owners who use those guns to defend themselves.
A justifiable homicide in Baltimore, an armed robber shot by his attempted victim. A stark reminder of why Republicans in Annapolis say Senate Bill 1 is a bad idea.
We are in a position where, once again, they are taking away the ability for law-abiding citizens to be able to protect themselves.
Democrats say the bill is aimed at reducing gun crime. If it becomes law, it would prevent legal gun owners from being armed in most places in public. But this shooting happened in a residential area.
So Senate Bill 1 would not apply to this shooting because it didn't happen within 100 feet of any public place. But if that justifiable homicide happened within 100 feet of here, it'd be a violation of Senate Bill 1.
A violation that has gun owners questioning the logic of the bill.
I mean, if I can't carry, if I don't have my gun during a robbery or a carjacking or something like that, I can't carry because I'm next to a public building. Like I said, it just defeats the whole purpose of being able to carry.
Law enforcement analyst Mark Powell has the same questions.
What are they supposed to do? Pull out a can of mace and try and spray the person in the eye?
Powell says the way Senate Bill 1 is written, people who defend themselves will now become criminals if the bill passes.
If the person defended themselves legally, but in the course of defending themselves, they committed a crime, they very well could likely find themselves arrested for carrying a firearm within 100 feet of a building.
Even in cases of self-defense, a person could still face jail time, up to 1 year to be exact, and a fine of up to $2,500. Powell says Senate Bill 1 will lead to more crimes and more victims if it becomes law.
If you outlaw people from carrying guns, then only outlaws will be carrying guns.
Now, it's not clear if the man who shot that would-be robber will face any other charges. Meanwhile, Senate Bill 1 passed Senate last week, 31-16, with 3 no votes from Democrats. We're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. Well, with just 3 weeks left in the legislative session, lawmakers are still butting heads on which bills should be prioritized. Despite crime being a major focus in Annapolis, it took over 2 months for the Senate to hold a hearing on Ivan Bates' crime bill. The proposal from the Baltimore City State's attorney would raise maximum penalties for certain gun crimes from 3 to 5 years across the board. At the Senate hearing, Bates pushed back on concerns the bill could contribute to mass incarceration, saying policies like these send a message to criminals.
I've gone to too many funerals. I've gone to too many and watched too many people and young boys and young men and young kids and young ladies who look like me and you that are dying and losing their life.
I understand the wraparound services, and I agree with that. And I don't want to see mass incarceration, but we will see accountability.
The future of that bill is still up in the air. The committee did not vote on the legislation last night, and it's unclear when or if that will happen. This morning, Fox 45 spoke with a lifelong Baltimore resident and community leader who says people are frustrated crime bills like this one are not getting passed.
We hired Mr. Bates to fight crime. Who would think that he would have to fight his own Democratic Party in order to do something about crime in Baltimore City? The reality is this: where there's an increase in criminality, there should be an increase in incarceration. Otherwise, somebody's not doing their job.
The state legislature has made progress, several policies relating to public health and safety. As Vincent mentioned earlier, lawmakers are poised to pass this year's restricts legal gun owners. Now, the Gun Safety Act limits where Marylanders with wear and carry permits can bring their weapons. The state legislature is also advancing the Trans Health Equity Act. All the bill needs for final approval is the governor's signature. While some say gender-affirming care is already covered by Medicare, the bill will expand the number of procedures available to those who are transitioning. Supporters argue the additional services are critical for the mental and physical health of transgender Marylanders, while opponents say the bill of taxpayers' money should not be used on what they say are cosmetic surgeries.
It seems discriminatory to utilize Medicaid money for cosmetic surgeries, fertility services that aren't offered to other people on Medicaid.
This bill allows some of our most vulnerable Marylanders to be able to access medically necessary care.
Well, that brings us to our question of the day. Do you believe Annapolis lawmakers are acting in your best interests? Yes or no? So far, 98% say no. To cast your vote, go to our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Continuing coverage now, the highly anticipated book about former Governor Larry Hogan's ex-chief of staff, Roy McGrath, is finally released. McGrath failed to appear for his federal fraud trial in Baltimore last week and is still missing. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost read that book and joins us live with what's in it. Mackenzie?
Well, Maxine, the book is 51 pages long, so it's a pretty quick read, and it's only available on a Kindle device. Going through the pages, it's pretty clear the author is offering a full-throated defense of Roy McGrath. The author, who we still haven't been able to reach any sort of contact with or establish exactly who the author is, says that he interviewed and spoke with Roy McGrath for this book. In this book, it details some of the allegations that we know are outlined in the indictment. And remember, McGrath is accused of stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from the state when he was serving as the executive director of the Maryland Environmental Service when he left that position to become former Governor Larry Hogan's chief of staff. Now, in the indictment, the federal prosecutors allege that McGrath took that severance package without telling the governor, but according to this book, McGrath says that he told the governor about it and the governor knew before it took place. Now, in this book, the author also describes former Governor Larry Hogan as an egocentric leader who is solely focused on his own political future, taking shots at the former governor about a slew of issues that's really unfounded in terms of relates to the indictment itself. Now, in addition to the severance package, McGrath is also accused of illegally recording conversations that he had with other staffers in the governor's office. The book itself doesn't dispute that. It says that Roy, in fact, did record those conversations, saying he was doing so because he was afraid of a, quote, looming scandal. It's unclear exactly what the author was referring to when he made those comments, but he also doesn't offer any other details or evidence as to some of the other allegations outlined throughout the 51 pages of the book. Now, some of these details no doubt would come out during the trial. We know that the former governor was scheduled to be called as a witness during the trial, but as we know right now, the trial isn't happening because McGrath is on the loose. It's unclear where he is. That federal manhunt continues for him after he didn't show up for his federal trial that was scheduled to take place last week and begin last Monday. The author also hints that there's another book coming, potentially explaining more details about McGrath's time at the Maryland Environmental Service. We also don't know exactly where the author is. I spoke with McGrath's attorney yesterday. He tells me he doesn't know who the author is, didn't even know about this book until just a few days ago. So really, this case continues to take even more mysterious twists and turns as the manhunt continues, and more details potentially could be coming out soon about this case. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
In response to the book, former Governor Hogan's spokesperson released a statement saying, quote, "In this day and age, anyone can publish a book and repeat bizarre and baseless accusations, including fugitives from justice who are facing multiple counts of fraud." And the FBI and U.S. Marshal Service, they continue the manhunt. As Mackenzie said, if he's found alive, he'll be brought back to Baltimore for trial.
Baltimore City Public Schools is one of the lowest performing large school systems in the country, raising questions over whether the state should intervene. State takeovers have happened frequently in the 1990s in cities like Boston, Detroit, and Philadelphia. But were those school systems more successful after being taken over? A report that looked into the Detroit takeover found startling mismanagement by state managers, including an estimated $610 million in wasteful spending and a failure to address plummeting student achievement and enrollment.
At what point should a state consider taking over a school system?
Before we talk about a takeover, let's talk about a takeaway. Why don't we take away some of the regulatory impediments that stop reform.
Tonight at 10 o'clock, the positive effects some say a state takeover can have and the other options Maryland could consider for helping improve Baltimore City schools. A dating app helping crack down on STDs, the new way it's protecting users.
We're just a month away from tax day. Are your taxes being put to good use? I'll tell you if you're getting a good return on your investment next.
And it looks like a risk of rain if you're going to be taking in the D.C. cherry blossoms right around peak time on Thursday. Temperatures in the 50s in the morning with some rain showers and maybe even at noon. Well, look at those mild highs in the low to mid 70s. I'm going to let you know how long that lasts and how much rain we could see through the beginning of your weekend. It's up in my Weather Authority forecast.